You will not find your new life until you are willing to lose the old one, not lose it casually. Lose it the way you lose something that never comes back, the way night loses itself to dawn without any promise of return. There is a death that has nothing to do with the body and everything to do with who you have convinced yourself you are. And until you walk through it, you are not really living. You are rehearsing. Think about the version of yourself you perform every single day. The one who reacts the same way to the same triggers, who reaches for the same distractions at the same hour, who tells the same story about why things are the way they are. That version of you is not actually alive in any meaningful sense. It is a recording, a loop, a ghost that learned how to make breakfast and answer emails and look busy. You have been haunting your own life. Here is the hard part. The part no one wants to say out loud. That loop, that pattern, that suffocating familiar routine, it feels safe. Not because it brings you joy, not because it is working, but because it is known. The mind does not distinguish between what is good for you and what is simply recognizable. It confuses survival with repetition. It mistakes the cage for shelter because the cage is what it knows. So when you try to change, when you reach for something different, something truer, your entire nervous system rises up and screams. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because to the old self, you are. Every genuine shift in your identity feels like annihilation to the part of you that built the old one. That is not metaphor. That is the actual architecture of transformation. Growth does not feel like growing. It feels like dying. And most people stop right there. They stand at the edge of the version of themselves they could become and feel the grief of letting go of the version they have always been, and they turn back. They call it wisdom. They call it being realistic. But what they are really doing is choosing the comfortable death of staying the same over the terrifying aliveness of becoming something new. There is a reason every ancient tradition, every spiritual lineage, every mythology worth its weight speaks of death and rebirth, not as religion, as truth. The caterpillar does not gradually become a butterfly. Inside the chrysalis, it dissolves completely. There is a moment where it is neither what it was nor what it will be. Pure uncertainty, pure becoming. That middle place is the most important place, and it is also the most unbearable. You have been in that place. Maybe you are there right now, that strange, suspended feeling where the old habits no longer satisfy you, but the new life has not yet fully arrived. Where you are too awake to go back to sleep, but not yet alive enough to call it living. That is not stagnation. That is the chrysalis. That is the necessary dissolution before the form can shift. But here is what the chrysalis requires. Surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, the surrender of trust. The willingness to stop gripping the shape you used to be and allow the process to do what it came to do. The caterpillar cannot negotiate its way through transformation. It cannot keep one wing of the old life while growing the new one. It has to let go entirely or it becomes nothing at all. What are you still holding? What old story about yourself are you keeping alive? Because releasing it would mean facing who you might be without it. The story that you are someone who struggles, someone who is not quite ready, someone who has been hurt in ways that make certain things impossible. Those stories are not lies exactly. They were once true. They were survival. But survival and living are not the same thing. And what kept you alive in one season of your life might be the very thing starving you in the next. The self that needs to die is not you. It is the armor you wore so long you forgot it was armor. It is the coping mechanism that calcified into personality. It is the fear that became a philosophy. You are not your patterns. You are what is underneath them, and underneath them has been waiting, quietly, patiently, for you to stop defending the version of yourself that no longer serves the life you are trying to build. This is not about burning everything down. It is not about dramatic gestures or declarations or reinvention as performance. It is quieter than that and more permanent. It is the moment you stop feeding the old story with your attention. The moment you catch the familiar reaction rising and you pause, just a breath, just long enough to choose differently. That pause is the death. That pause is also the birth. They happen in the same instant. Most people want transformation without loss. They want to add the new self on top of the old one like a layer of paint over rot. But the rot does not disappear because you painted over it. It spreads. Real change requires removal before addition. It requires sitting in the uncomfortable nakedness of not knowing who you are yet on the other side of everything you have released. You will grieve the old version of yourself even when it was hurting you. That is human. That is honest. Grief does not mean you were wrong to let go. It means you are paying attention to the weight of what transformation actually costs. But here is what waits on the other side of that grief. Here is what the people who walked through it come back to tell you. The life you have been circling, the aliveness you have felt in brief flashes and immediately talked yourself out of. It is not a dream. It is not too much to ask. It is simply what remains when you stop insisting on staying dead. You cannot live the life that is waiting for you while you are still loyal to the life that is over. Something has to end. Something has to be buried. And then, and only then, does something real begin.